And welcome to this week's episode of DIY History. On the podcast this week, That's Shakespeare Life, we are talking all about the history of pumpkins from Shakespeare's lifetime. And one of the things we mention is a recipe from 1615 for how to make Pompion Pye. You can listen to the podcast to find out why it's called Pompion Pye instead of pumpkin pie, as well as to explore some more history about pumpkins from Shakespeare's lifetime. But today here on YouTube, I'm going to show you how to make Pompion Pye from 1615. So hit that like and subscribe button because we're here every week with fun episodes like this. Now let's get started. The recipe that Gervase Markham wrote in 1615 assumes two things. It assumes that you've already baked your pumpkin and that your pie shell is ready to go. So the instructions for both of these things are not included in the original recipe. So here's how you can bake your pumpkin if you need to do that to start with. So you're going to begin by taking one whole pumpkin. Now you can also just use canned pumpkin. That works just fine. But you will slice it and take out the seeds. And you're going to cook it like acorn squash. You lay it open on a cookie sheet, cover it with olive oil and a little salt and pepper, and bake it at 400 degrees for 30 to 40 minutes or until a fork pokes through it easily. Now, for this next step, you're going to add a bunch of spices to taste. The recipe doesn't have standards, weights, and measures yet. In Shakespeare's lifetime, they didn't exist. So you would add the spices to taste with as much or as little as you like, and playing around with them is part of the fun. You'll add in marjoram, thyme, rosemary, nutmeg, cinnamon, and cloves, sugar, and 10 whole eggs. Now, the recipe says sugar to taste, so put about a cup of sugar. Be careful not to put too much or it'll end up being syrupy. But yes, you do want to use 10 whole eggs. You mix them all up in a bowl, stir it well, and now you're going to fry this mixture in an iron skillet on top of the stovetop, a lot like an omelet. Now, when you go to put this into your pie pan, you're now going to create layers using the froisé, which is this pumpkin omelet thing you just made, and apple slices and currants. And you just layer them one after the other, starting with the froisé, and then you will put apple slices and currants all in layers, one after the other, until you get it to the top. You'll cover it with another layer of pie shell on top or pastry shell if you're using a pre-made one. Seal it and then brush the whole thing with an egg wash. You do want to cut slits in the top, and I'll tell you why in just a second. You'll bake this in the oven at 400 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes, then turn the heat down and bake it at 350 for another 30 minutes. Now, at this point, the pie is almost finished cooking, and so you're going to take it out of the oven and make what's called the caudle. The caudle is where you take 6 egg yolks, 3 tablespoons of sugar, and a cup of cream. Mix it all together with some verjuice. Now, verjuice is made from green grapes. We cover that in another episode here on DIY History. But if you don't have verjuice on hand, you can also just use lemon juice instead. It works just fine. And again, don't forget those 3 tablespoons of sugar. You mix it all together, pour it in those slits at the top of your pie pan, and then put the pie back in the oven. You will cook it for another 8 to 10 minutes or until the caudle is set. It should be a jelly-like or custard-like consistency. And there you have it. That's how you make Pompion Pye from the 17th century, right from the life of William Shakespeare. If you like this episode, hit like and subscribe because we're here every Saturday. And don't forget to check out our podcast episode about pumpkins from Shakespeare's lifetime for even more history. The links for these things are found right below this video. That's it for this week. I'm Cassidy Cash, and I hope you learned something new about the Bard. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.